Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Board President Juan Armenta, the Physician's Assistant Board. I'm calling the meeting to order this morning at 8:45. We had some difficulties and we have one member en route. This is the board meeting for November 6, 2023. Ms. Gompers, would you please call the roll?
Charles Alexander,
Present.
Juan Armenta,
Present.
Jennifer Carlquist, Sonia Early, present. Randy Hawkins,
Here.
Jed Grant,
Present.
Nzunza,
Present.
Vasco Dion Kid,
Present.
and Deborah Snow is en route.
Great, thank you.
And that concludes the roll.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so the first action item is item number 3 on the agenda, consideration of the August 4th, 2023 minutes. I trust everybody has had an opportunity to review this. Do we have any board member comments on the meeting, or on the minutes? Very well. Having no comment from the board, is there any public comment on the meeting minutes from the August 4th, 2023? Let me start with WebEx.
Thank you so much, Mr. Board President. I will go ahead and open the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or you may simply raise your hand. We will give you a moment.
Craziness.
And that just so everybody knows, for the public comment sections, my intention is to proceed on all items WebEx first, then here in the room. So if I misstep, somebody please feel free to nudge me.
All right, this is a moderator. I'm seeing no requests from the attendees in WebEx. Is there anyone in the room?
We see no hands.
Okay. Shall I close the question and answer panel?
Please.
All right, it's closing.
Very well. Ms. Gompers, if you will call the vote, please. And this motion is to approve the minutes of the August 4th, 2023 minutes.
Well, before that, I'd like to second that we can approve the minutes.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Sonia, thank you. Do we need that for minute approval? Yes?
Usually there's a motion. in
Okay. So as I stated, I'll make the motion to approve.
I'd second.
Okay, very well. If we would call the roll, please.
Charles Alexander,
Aye.
Juan Armenta,
Aye.
Jennifer Carlquist,
Aye. Aye.
Jed Grant,
Aye.
Diego Nzunza,
Aye.
Vasco Dion Kid,
Aye.
Deborah Snow. Oh, Deborah Snow is absent. And that concludes the vote.
Very well. Then the motion stands approved. Next action item is item number 4, public comment on items not on the agenda. So let us go ahead and open WebEx to see if there's any public commentary from the WebEx platform.
Thank you so much, Mr. Board President. This is the moderator, and I have opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment from WebEx attendees. Are there any requests for comment from the room? All right, shall I go ahead and close the Q&A panel?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Right. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to shift the next item in order. We will go ahead with the executive officer's report. Ms. Khan, if you would, please.
Good morning, everyone. I have two updates. The first is personnel. I'm pleased to announce that Pearl Herr will be joining the board on November 7th, 2023 as the Enforcement and Licensing Support Technician. Ms. Herr is currently the receptionist at the Physical Therapy Board of California. Prior to joining state service in June 2021, Ms. Herr gained clerical and customer service experience in the private sector. Additionally, recruitment is underway to fill the vacant administrative office technician position. An update regarding the vacant position will be provided at the next meeting. To enhance operational efficiency, consumer protection, and realize cost savings, the board believes that it is critical to its mission and success that it employs its own non-sworn special investigator. Currently, the board has one complaint analyst who conducts initial desk investigations for all complaints. If further investigation is warranted, the complaint is forwarded to the Division of Investigation, D of I, Health Quality Investigation Unit within the Department of Consumer Affairs for a comprehensive investigation. D of I investigators are sworn peace officers. The board has identified several case types that can be investigated and referred for prosecution without the use of a sworn investigator. Redirecting such cases to non-sworn personnel can streamline processes and reduce costs. Many tasks associated with investigations can be performed by non-sworn investigators, such as detecting and verifying violations, interviewing witnesses, gathering information, analyzing testimony, serving legal papers, or serving an expert witness, amongst other non-sworn duties. This ensures sworn investigators focus on tasks needing peace officer powers, like use of firearms, arrest, or search and seizure. The board will continue to utilize HQIU for criminal investigations that can only be handled by a sworn peace officer. On August 10th, the board submitted a recruitment package to DCA Office of Human Resources to establish the non-sworn special investigator blanket position at limited term for 24 months to collect workload data and cost savings. The aim is to eventually make this a permanent position through a future budget change proposal. On August 24th, the package was approved. Recruitment for the non-sworn special investigator is underway with the expectation to fill the position before the next board meeting. The last update is regarding outreach. The board staff had the pleasure of attending the annual California Academy of Physician Associates CAPA conference during Physician Assistant Week, October 5th through 8th in Anaheim. The event provided an essential outreach opportunity for board staff to answer questions from licensees and students and provide updates regarding laws and regulations governing the physician assistant practice. We appreciate the opportunity afforded to us by CAPA to attend this exceptional event. That concludes my report. Any questions?
So this position that we expect to fill, what progress do we have so far on recruitment candidates?
We did post the position. We have, we've already reviewed applications. The next step is to set up interviews.
And when do you expect that to take place?
I'm hoping in the next month.
And how many candidates do we have so far?
I believe 7.
Oh, okay, good pool. And generally, what type of backgrounds do these candidates have?
What I've seen for the non-sworns are individuals that have already done desk investigations, so they're at the AGPA level. Just for reference, our staff, Armando Melendez, is somebody that would be in that, someone that would proceed to that type of position.
Okay, very good.
Question.
Please.
So in general, those who decided to stop at our booth, were particular things that they talked about, asked about, or provided to those who were representing the PA board at that CAPA meeting? Just curious if that's too big a question.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Basically, the question is those who decided, we were at CAPA, right?
Yes.
And we had a booth or whatever. So those who decided to stop there and engage with us, were there topics that tend to recur, either comments or questions?
Yeah, it's questions regarding, what new laws that have passed, or one of the questions was about the name change, and we were very firm in saying that there has to be a legislative change to do that. So that was mainly some of the questions. And also there were a lot of students asking about the application process.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Great. Thank you, Ms. Khan. Okay, let us go to board activity reports, item number 9, and let us start with licensing, topic A. She's on RevX?
No, she's on WebEx. Yeah.
Okay. So, Ms. Vu, if you would please, go ahead and proceed with your licensing report.
And this is a moderator. If Christy, you need to unmute.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, give me one moment.
It took you out of order, so I surprised you a little bit. So go ahead, take your time.
Yes, you did. Okay. Let me share my
And we
screen.
want to acknowledge that Julie is not able to join us today. Julie Caldwell, the licensing analyst.
Right.
Yes. So this is Christy Moon. I'm the Assistant Executive Officer, and I'll be providing the licensing activity report on behalf of Julie. So the first report is the licensing population by type. So this report breaks down the different license types and statuses the board has. The board now has 2 license types, the regular full PA license and now a temporary PA license. Effective July 1st, 2023, each DCA licensing board and bureau is required to grant temporary licensure to the spouse or domestic partner of an active duty military member stationed in California. If the applicant is currently licensed and holds an active and unrestricted license in another state with the same scope of practice as the profession in California for which they would like to practice. This applicant population also receives expedited processing and initial application and license fee waivers. The temporary license is non-renewable and expires 12 months after issuance. If the individual wishes to continue to practice medicine in California, after the temporary license expires, they'll need to reapply for a full physician assistant license. So this report, as of October 24th, the board has a total of 25,243 licenses, of which 17,216 are current and 1 is temporary. These are the individuals that can practice medicine. The second report is the summary of licensing activity. Between July 1st and September 30th, 543 individuals applied for a regular full license and 448 licenses were issued. 2 individuals applied for the temporary license and 1 temporary license was issued. And during this quarter, 1,916 individuals renewed their license. So this report is the pending application workload. This report gives an idea of how many applications are in the system and where they're at in the process. So the desk age starts once the application is assigned to a specific staff member. And then the application age starts when the application is entered into the system and paid. And the different, and with the pie chart, when you see red and it's showing 91 plus days, should not cause a concern. It really just indicate that the application has been reviewed. It just means that there are still outstanding items, such as like the pass and PANS score or verification of other healthcare licenses from other state. So that's what it indicates. And at the time of the report, there were a total of 407 pending applications in our drawer. So the last report is the licensing performance measures. The board has an internal target goal of completing the initial review of applications within 30 days of receiving the application and payment. During this quarter, the board's processing time is 29 days. And the complete applications means that we review the application and it's ready for licensure and they get licensed. The incomplete applications means that there are deficiencies. So this concludes the licensing activity report. Are there any questions?
Okay, it doesn't appear that we have any, Ms. Wu. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Melendez. Hopefully you got a heads up that I'm going out of order and you're ready to go. This is the complaints board activity reports. Good morning.
We go. I will be providing you a section of the enforcement activity report in regards to the complaints for the first quarter. We will be focusing on the first quarter of July 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2023. As you can see, we have also provided stats from the previous year. This report will also show how we are trending this fiscal year to the last fiscal year. So I'll start off with complaint volume. We received 102 complaints. We received 6 convictions, arrests reports, with a total of 108 complaints for the quarter. Intake. Our average days on intake are 6 days. That means it's about 6 days to when we review the case or initiate the case once received. There are 0 complaints that are pending at the intake level. Complaints and investigations. We have 8 complaints that were referred for investigation. 139 complaints and investigations were closed last quarter. 237 complaints are pending at the desk for the analyst. 53 investigations are pending at the field. Investigation aging. The average age of pending investigations are 339 days. Investigations that are over 8 months old, there are 33 cases this time. I would like to move to the following chart. The following chart is on the complaints received by type and source. This concludes my portion of the report. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Yes, I have a quick question. For the intake days, the number is 8 days. Is that almost like the desk age, the time that it takes you to start that?
6 days, yeah.
6 days, okay.
Yes, yes. So we might have cases sitting on a queue,
Mhm.
or they get mailed in and I don't work on them until the following week
Okay. All right,
So there's some days, there's days that I do other things
right.
before I start reviewing the.
All of your numbers look great. I just wanted just a little clarification on that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I have a couple of questions, if that's okay. So for the numbers, the year-to-year over change on your first report there, that's not per quarter, right? That's just for the year as a whole? In other
Yeah,
words-
yes,
okay,
yes. The first set of numbers are from for the whole year.
Right.
And just the first quarter.
So that year-to-year change doesn't reflect that we had a 77% decrease in the first quarter?
No.
That's just for the whole, compared to the whole year?
Yeah, compared to the whole year.
Okay, because that would be a big, like, all of a sudden we're getting 75% less complaints. That would raise some alarms. So I just
No,
want
and it will change as we go
Yes.
through the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then aging, I just would like your opinion if you think that having an internal non-sworn investigator might help with some of the investigations aging. I know there's some cost savings we anticipate, but if there might be more time efficiency to be found there too, just in your opinion, something we could look for when the investigator comes on.
I believe so, only because they'll be working directly with the analyst, and working together, they can probably most likely process the cases much sooner.
Build some efficiencies.
Yes, so I mean, Definitely, for sure, there's a cost savings. Working together with the internal staff person is going to save time as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Melendez.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so next would be item C, discipline. Staff Member Hayden. Good morning.
Yes. Okay, I think that's better.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I'll be presenting for the first quarter, which is July 1st of 2023 to September 30th, 2023. So for the suspensions, there were none for the first quarter. For the Office of Attorney General Transmittal, there are 10 cases initiated, 47 cases pending, and the average age of the pending cases is 364. For the formal actions filed, withdrawn and dismissed, accusations for this first quarter was 11. There was one accusation dismissed. For the administrative outcomes and final order, there was one probationary license issued. 2 licensees were placed on probation. There was one revocation. There was one petition for termination of probation granted, and there was one petition for termination of probation denied. And for citation and fine, there were none issued this quarter. So that concludes my report. Does anyone have any questions?
I would note that these, see if you agree with me, Ms. Hayden, I think these numbers look both good and fairly stable. And I would comment that as the only board member that is a lawyer and a litigator, that these numbers really are more reflective of the due process that we have to give the accused. They have an opportunity to review evidence, to respond, to present their own evidence. These things do take time. So I think it's important for us to keep in mind that initially, when you might say average desk age of 364 from a litigation point of view, especially where somebody stands accused, that is actually not alarming at all. I think it's quite the norm.
Thank you, Juan.
Any other comments? Please.
Thank you for that report, by the way. The average age of pending cases is 364 days, is that?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, that's the average.
it's about a year almost.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, very good. Any other comments? Great, thank you, Ms. Hayden. Okay, so items D and E both belong to Mr. Gerard. Good morning. Oh, mic's off. Yes. There's a button on the base.
Just note I greeted everyone appropriately.
You did. Noted.
So we have, last quarter, or from July to September, we had 2 folks enter probation in August, 1 in September, and we lost, 2 people completed, and 1 person was granted early termination. So we held steady at 33 active probationers, 11 tolling. And as we recall, tolling means that the licensees are not practicing in-state and they're not practicing in the state in which they reside. And I would say at least half probably spend a little bit of time tolling because they kind of get fired or they're dropped from their insurance. So people come in and out of tolling, and with a total of 44 probationers. And that concludes my report.
Could you explain that again, the tolling?
So it's sort of a long history with this condition of probation. Originally, when folks were put on probation, if they left the state, the time would run, so they never spent any time actually doing their probation. So then they made, they make the changes and they say, okay, well, time spent not practicing here is going to get added onto probation. And then I was with MedBoard, they actually have drawers of people with the old language that are probably going to die on probation. They're in another state, they're never going to come back here. And there's probably tens of folks like that. So then they changed the condition again that says if you spend 2 years tolling, then it's a violation of probation. And then we can try to petition to get to end the probation and not have a case lingering. So that's where it is right now. I hope that answered your question, sir.
Yes, it does. So basically, we're not allowing the probationary terms an escape mechanism by moving to another state, letting time go by, and then come back and say, hey, I've completed my probation. We actually want them practicing here under their probationary terms so we can monitor public safety effects.
That's correct. Yes, sir. It only took us a few decades to iron that out. But we are doing it. And also, if you practice on probation in another state, that time is not considered tolling. It's kind of a long condition.
Very good. All right. Thank you.
Okay, the diversion activity report. We have gained one person in September. So we have 5. And then I watched the last board meeting and I noticed your questions because I had Christina Hayden read my report. Thank you, Christina. So our monthly meetings are held with all the boards with the diversion program liaison. Her name is Ginny Matthews, and she's pretty high up. I can't remember her title. She happens to be the president of NOAP, which is the National Organization for Alternative Programs. And it was in May that I think they had their conference. And I don't know if I should have reported it, but it was just speculation. That was something else Dr. Grant wanted to know. That attendance is down and nationwide in the diversion programs. And then it was speculated that maybe people were looking the other way because there's a nursing shortage in some states. So it was just speculation. But Ginny said that they are forming a committee to find out why. And she's the chair of that committee. So I will keep you posted on that. Your other question was, what would keep someone from being accepted in the program is they may not have a diagnosis of substance abuse. Another thing, believe it or not, is that they don't have a license anymore.
Okay.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Gerard. Any further questions?
I just want to thank you for following up on that question from the last meeting. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Great. Outstanding. Thank you, Ms. Gerard.
What?
Thank you, Ms. Gerard.
Thank you,
Outstanding.
sir.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any public comment on the board activity reports? And let's start with WebEx platform, please.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, the board activity reports, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or simply raise your hand. We'll give you a moment, and we are displaying instructions. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request from WebEx attendees. Do you have any requests for comment inside your room?
I see no hands.
All right, shall I close the Q&A panel?
Please.
Okay, it's closed.
Very well. The next action item is the director's update from DCA staff, Department of Consumer Affairs. Okay. I see Madam Director just walked in, so your timing is perfect.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Since the director is here, I'm going to defer to her. I had some comments for the departing board members, but I'll let her, I'm sure she's here to share a few words. Well, good morning. My name is Judy Bucciarelli from the Department of Consumer Affairs Board and Bureau Relations, and I thank you for the opportunity to join you today. Today, I'll begin my report by sharing a business, consumer services, and housing agency update. Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency Secretary Lourdes Castro Ramirez has been appointed as the Chief of Housing and Homelessness in the Office of Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, effective November 2nd. Secretary Castro Ramirez has been an extraordinary partner to DCA and the boards and bureaus and a relentless consumer protection champion. We are grateful for her leadership and will miss her very much and wish her all the best in her new role. Until a new secretary is appointed by Governor Newsom, Tad Igawa, General Counsel at agency, is serving as BCHS acting secretary. We look forward to working with him during the interim. Next, I'll provide a diversity, equity, and inclusion update, also referred to as DEI. Training continues to be a priority for the DEI Steering Committee, and in October, 138 DCA leaders and 26 board members completed DEI Human-Centered Approach training provided by University of Massachusetts consultant Dr. Bernard Gibson. Tomorrow, November 7th, University of Massachusetts consultant Christopher Veal will provide a virtual training entitled DEI Dialogue for Leaders to DCA managers, supervisors, and leadership. The training will include example language and tools, discuss psychological safety and how it impacts these conversations, and interactive discussions around challenges leaders are facing. DCA encourages all executive officers and their management teams to attend. DCA continues to support DCA boards and bureaus in expanding culturally competent communications and promote the importance of meeting the needs of all California consumers, licensees, and applicants. DCA's Deputy Director of Communications recently met with the Consulate of Mexico in San Francisco to share information and resources about DCA, as well as hear about areas of interest to the consulate. As a result of the meeting, DCA offered partnership for future in-person and online events and to share available consumer resources. The DEI Steering Committee is pleased to highlight the work of the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians. DCA's Tribal Liaison and DCA's DEI Steering Committee Chair, Yafana Lamar, recently introduced the Executive Officer of the Board for Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians to Britta Guerrero, Executive Officer of the Sacramento Native American Health Clinic. The meeting was to discuss the possibility of tribal health clinics serving as locations for vocational nursing students needing to obtain clinical hours required for licensure. Participants also discussed strategies to encourage members of California's tribal communities to consider becoming a healthcare provider. Future discussions to include consortiums of tribal health providers, such as the Consortium for Urban Indian Health and the California Rural Indian Health Board, are in the planning stages. The DEI Steering Committee would like to continue to learn about and showcase the DEI activities of DCA's boards and bureaus. If your board has DEI efforts to share, please send them to DCA Board and Bureau Relations. Moving on, I have an update related to in-person meetings and the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. DCA boards and bureaus may conduct entirely remote public meetings without notice locations accessible to the public through December 31st, 2023, so long as the public is able to participate in the meeting remotely. Commencing on January 1, 2024, 4 meeting options will be available pursuant to the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. Option number 1 is a traditional single location option with the following. This is a meeting where the majority of members are gathered at one publicly noticed and accessible location. No members are participating remotely, and there is no requirement to allow for remote public participation. Option number 2 is a traditional teleconference option with the following. Board members are located at different publicly noticed and accessible locations, and they are connected via phone or WebEx. There is no requirement to allow for remote public participation. Option number 3 is a new teleconference option, where a majority of board members are gathered at one publicly noticed and accessible location. The extra board members above a majority can participate remotely from private, non-public sites, and the meeting must allow for remote public participation. And finally, option number 4, the new advisory body teleconference option. All members of an advisory body can participate remotely from a private, non-public, can participate remotely from private, non-public meeting sites. The meeting must have at least one publicly noticed and accessible location where at least one board staff member is present and where the public can participate in the meeting. Additionally, the meeting must allow for remote public access. DCA encourages all boards to work closely with their board counsel to ensure compliance with the Open Meeting Act. Next, I have a required board member trainings reminder. As we approach the final months of this year, there are 2 DCA-wide mandatory trainings that, if you haven't already completed, we ask that you do so immediately. This includes sexual harassment prevention training and information security awareness. All DCA employees and appointees, including board and advisory council members, will need to complete the sexual harassment prevention training by December 31st, 2023. Additionally, board members with an assigned DCA email are required to complete the Information Security Awareness Fundamentals training. This training addresses your role in protecting DCA data and information. The training is online and required every year. Both the sexual harassment prevention training and information security awareness training are available in the department's learning management system. If board members need assistance accessing LMS and these trainings, please contact your board liaison or board and bureau relations. Moving on to an out-of-state travel update. With the recent signing of SB 447 by Governor Newsom, California's travel restrictions to states that have adopted discriminatory anti-LGBTQ+ laws immediately ended. California's restricted states travel list was eliminated and replaced with a new public awareness project that will consult with community leaders to promote California's values and acceptance and inclusion of the LGBTQ+ community across the country. Over the past years, several out-of-state trips requested by boards were not authorized because the travel was to a state on the restricted travel list. Now, out-of-state travel to all states is permitted if the trip is critical to the functions and needs of the board. Out-of-state travel requests must still follow the established process for review and approval by DCA, agency, and the governor's office. Please reach out to your executive officer or board and bureau relations with any questions. Next is an update for the Our Promise campaign launch, State Employees Giving at Work campaign. In partnership with board members, DCA will continue its tradition of generosity and caring for our communities. This year's Our Promise Giving at Work campaign officially kicked off on October 5th and runs through December 31st, 2023. Leading our efforts this year are DCA's co-chairs Monica Vargas, Deputy Director of Communications, and Yvonne Durantes, Assistant Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations. This annual campaign gives state employees, including board members, an opportunity to support nonprofits through a one-time donation or payroll deduction. These contributions make a positive impact by providing vital resources to those experiencing poverty, homelessness, food insecurity, and offer support to causes such as veterans, animals, the environment, and more. We hope you will join the state's campaign and contribute to a nonprofit or nonprofits of your choice. For additional information on how to give, please contact Yvonne Durantes. And now I'll move on with more information for this year's DCA Turkey Drive. On November 14th, 2023, board members and staff will have another opportunity to come together and give back. DCA will host the second annual Turkey Drive with donations benefiting Joey's Food Locker, a community food bank located in Natomas near DCA headquarters in Sacramento. Donations of frozen turkeys, hams, chickens, as well as other non-perishable food items will be accepted at 3 DCA office locations in the Sacramento area on November 14th. For information on how to participate and donate, please contact your executive officer. And finally, in case you missed it, Board and Bureau Relations sent out its 2023 fall newsletter, which was distributed to board presidents and vice presidents, and as well to all executive officers and bureau chiefs. The fall newsletter is available online at the board member resources page on the DCA webpage. Thank you again for the opportunity to present the DCA update today. And at this time, I will hand it back to President Armenta, and I welcome any questions from the board.
Thank you. Any comments or questions, board members? Well, it seems you're quite efficient. There's no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So since we have the director here very briefly, let me get out of the way the president's report, and then we'll move on to item 6, which is board recognition. Public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Any public comment on the director's update?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I have opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on the Department of Consumer Affairs update, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests from WebEx attendees. Are there any requests for public comment in the room?
We see none.
All right, shall I close the Q&A panel?
Please.
Okay, it's closed.
Very good. So quickly, the president's report is one thing. This is a comment for the public and of course my fellow board members. If you will recall our last meeting, there was some discussion about placing an agenda item regarding the name change that was advocated by CAPA. I decided in my capacity as president not to put that on the board agenda, and I want to explain exactly why. I understand that there is great interest in that among the community, but our mission goal as a board is specific. It is protection of the public. There was commentary that perhaps the board could collaborate on determining a policy basis and acquiring data that would support a policy basis for a change in name. That crosses over into the legislative area, which I think is beyond our scope. We are not a legislative body. We are simply a public protection body. So on that basis, I decided not to include it as an agenda item. However, I think it's important for the public to understand clearly that if legislation does make its way to us, of course, we would give it proper and due consideration. Okay, so I just wanted to comment on that. As you all know, we regularly meet, the Vice President and I, with the executive officer. by telephone to go over board business. It's been quite efficient. Ms. Khan is doing an excellent job of keeping us informed, and we expect those to continue. Finally, we do need, since we are going to be minus members Grant and Alexander next year, which is a great loss, and Carlquist as well, which is a great loss. We do need volunteers for the Committee on the Education Workforce Development Advisory Committee. So before I even ask for volunteers, I'm going to tell you my intentions are to nominate without volunteers member Kidd as one of those members of that board. So are there any other volunteers for that that position?
Is that what you call being voluntold? I think that's what that is.
I accept.
I think so. Yeah. Any other volunteers besides member Kidd? Okay, so Dr. Kidd, you will go ahead and be appointed to that. Oh, Dr. Alexander, you still here with us next year? Oh. Oh, okay, so you're still here, so member Kidd and member Alexander's, you will be the member committees for the Education and Workforce Development Committee?
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct. Yeah.
all right, outstanding.
Thank you.
Okay, any public comment on the president's report?
I just thought you were kicking me off the board.
There might be other reasons for that, Charles, but we won't discuss those here. Of course not. Thank you, sir, for your service. Any public comment, please, on the president's report?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I have opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. We will give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment from WebEx attendees. Are there any requests for comment in the room?
I see none.
All right, I'll close the Q&A panel.
Excellent. So let us move to item number 6, board member recognition and commendations. And Madam Director, I know you're here. If you'd like to comment, we'd certainly appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning, President Armenta and members. It is always my honor to do this, and also it's a bittersweet moment because it's also very sad when we're losing some of our longtime members. And so this morning, I really just wanted to come before you and just acknowledge the service of Member Grant and Member Carlquist and just thank them for their service. As well, Member Grant, thank you for your service to the United States and just all that you do for the profession, and just a huge thank you from DCA. You've been a longtime member. We've been together in different roles as well, working very well hand in hand. And so you're going to be greatly missed amongst the board. And I know that everybody's really sad to be losing you. Just some things I just want to take a moment as well just to thank him for his leadership as board president. I know for a long time working in that role and just leading the board and providing information. I know he's taught me a lot about the physician assistant, just the role of a physician assistant and what they do, but then also carrying this actually board now that was a committee when I first came on board under the Medical Board of California, and just his leadership to bring this into a board and into a self-serving board that, not self-serving, but a board that is not under the guise of the medical board and producing its own work. And so just a huge thank you to you and Member Carlquist. Thank you for your longtime service and just the decisions and the committee that you've been on, and just a real big thank you as well for all of your time. I know just decisions that have been made are definitely coming out from both of yours input and discussion. So I just wanted to take a moment and thank you, Jed, again, just a heartfelt thank you for all the service you've done.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your comments and especially your leadership of DCA and being able to work closely with you, especially during the pandemic and all of that. It was a lot of long days and hard work, and your leadership has been amazing, and your support of the board has also been amazing as we've grown and become independent as a board. So really thank you for that, and thank you for your support.
Absolutely.
You have
And I
any
believe,
comments?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say also thank you for providing the support that you do. And I'm sad to leave, but it'll be nice to know what great hands the board will be in your care, and also all of our members that will be staying. So thank you again.
And there's always other places.
Well, I'd like to comment as well as, I think I'm the first member here that has not been a PA. So both of you have taught me so much about the PA, and I think it's important, especially if we have in the future any board members that are not PAs. The example you guys set is exemplary in terms of helping educate other board members. There's been tough challenges that also been faced, and the one that always sticks out to me is SB 697, and Jed and Jen were very instrumental in helping the understanding and moving that ball forward. And it is probably the best expression of humanity, I think. And speaking of both of you, is assisting others, assisting strangers, and you do that both in your profession, your teaching, and in Jed in your military service as well. All of that rings of a certain nobility that I think it is fair to say that you two are examples of what the sentinels of the state of California and its democracy should aspire to. So thank you both for your service. And I think the staff members went to the effort to come over here, please. This is for your pride room or whatever we call it. The resolution from the board, please, for both of you. Take a quick picture here for those attending on WebEx. Great, thank you. So it is. They are but a small token of the esteem, but a permanent token of the esteem that I think all the staff and members share for you. So with that being said, I think we're going to perhaps see Dr. Grant in some other capacity for many years to come. And Jen, we certainly wish you great things. And George, as I stated, with your skill set, I have no doubt that you're going to hit the ground running in the state of Georgia. Okay, very good. That concludes, I think, the board recognition and commendations, unless we have other comments. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to do public comment, but I wanted to see if anybody else had any comments they wanted to make. Okay.
Well, I think you've said it very well. So it's not that we don't have anything else to say. We can't do any more justice than what you guys have done. So thank you again for your service. We appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. And do we have any public comment on board member recognition and commendations?
Thank you, Mr. Board Press.
We're going to do WebEx first.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please either raise your hand or type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We'll give you a moment. All right, this is the moderator. I see no requests for comment from WebEx attendees, and it looks like you have a comment in the room.
Well, we do have a comment from a man that needs no introduction around these quarters, former President Bob Sachs. President Sachs, if you would, please.
Robert Sachs, Tech School of Medicine, USC. Both of these individuals served on my board for a number of years. Jed in particular, I met when he was an instructor and program director at San Joaquin PA program. And at that time, I had trouble distinguishing when he slept. He was the program director, an instructor, a police officer for the city of Visalia, and also did emergency medicine. Then when he got on the board, He gave up law enforcement, but he picked up more in the military, most recently status as lieutenant colonel, which is no simple task. Program admission, ER, PA board member, PA president, PA vice president, eloquent at getting some of the legislation passed during my tenure as president and vice president, and also a father, husband, and instructor who impacted many lives and protected the California consumers at the max. And Jennifer was right behind him, doing many things. Our cardiology queen. We will still reach across the country to get our questions answered regarding cardiology. And I will continue to stay in touch with Jed. Congratulations to both of you. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Bob. Really means a lot coming from an icon in the PA profession in California. And especially thank you for your mentorship. I learned a tremendous amount about leadership and about protecting the public from you. So thank you for your service and mentorship.
I just want to echo that sentiment from Jed. And I just remember the first day of being on the board, you welcomed me with open arms. You and Jed both kind of shepherded me and helped me along and made me feel comfortable until I could get my land legs. And I will never forget that. And I thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate your comments and your being here to honor these two. Any other public comments? All right, excellent. Well, thank you both again. Your service has been exemplary. Gives hope for our system of government to see people like both of you involved in it. So thank you. All right, very good. That concludes that item. I think we should take a quick comfort break. If we could be back, it is at 9:42. Why don't we make it 10 o'clock straight up? I think some people are going to want to have some words privately for Jed and Jennifer. Thank you. We'll stand adjourned until 10. Ready? Or missing Ariel. Okay. Oh, there she is. Okay. Ariel, you ready? Okay. Okay, let's call us back to order here at 10 o'clock. The next action item is the nomination and election of physician assistant board officers. So our counsel, Michael Knotes, will go ahead and take that item for us.
Good morning, Mr. President, members. This is Michael Knotes, Physician Assistant Board Counsel, and welcome to your election for 2024 board officers. Section 3509.5 of the Business and Professions Code very succinctly states, the board shall elect annually a president and vice president from among its members. We'll first go to the position of president, and very briefly, I'll ask for nominations, give candidates a moment to accept that and say any words they would like to. If there's subsequent nominations, we'll do those as well, and then we will vote, and that vote will change a little bit depending on whether we have multiple persons. If we have one person, we will have a nomination that's seconded, and we will vote for or against the nomination. If we have multiple nominations, then you'll vote for the individual who you would like to elect to the office. So with that, are there any nominations for the position of board president?
I would like to make a nomination of position of Board President of Sonia Early.
Is there a second for that nomination?
This is Dion. I'll second that.
Would the nominee care to say a few words?
I accept. Thank you so much, and I look forward to serving next year.
Are there any other nominations for the position of Board President? Okay, hearing none. Would someone like to second the nomination? Oh, we did second the nomination, forgive me. At this point, we will take public comment on the nomination.
This is the moderator. Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and open up the Q&A panel. And if any member of the public would like to comment on the nomination, please either raise your hand or type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is the moderator. I see no requests for comment from WebEx attendees. Are there any requests for comment in the room?
There are not, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Is there any additional board member comment?
Yeah, I'd like to comment. I know this is Sonia's last year on the board. Is that correct? This next year, right. I don't want to make the same mistake I did with Charles, as throwing you off the board immediately. Being her exit year, I thought the knowledge that Sonia can bring is important, and I thought we should take advantage of this final year to use that knowledge and expertise in the field. I think it's important.
And with that, if there's no further comments, we can call the roll.
Charles Alexander,
Aye.
Juan Armenta,
Aye.
Jennifer Carlquist,
Aye.
Sonia Early,
Aye.
Jed Grant,
Aye.
Diego Nzunza,
Aye.
Vasco Dion Kidd,
Aye.
Deborah Snow.
Aye.
And that concludes the vote.
Congratulations, Madam President.
Congratulations.
Continuing on, are there any nominations for the office of Vice President?
I'd again like to make a nomination of Vasco Dion Kidd for Vice President.
Excellent. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Kidd, would you like to say a few words?
It is a pleasure and honor to serve. Thank you so much for your confidence and for the nomination. And Mr. Armenta, thank you for your leadership as president of the PA Board. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Any board member comment on the nomination and election?
Yes, I'd like to comment. When Jed asked me to perhaps consider being president when he was deployed, I thought it important, since we were facing SB 697, to have a legal perspective, and Jed thought that too. So it's been my honor to serve in that capacity and help us get us through that challenging period. It was fraught with legal issues. And we did. We have the legislation, regulations, I should say, we think lined up pretty well, and it took a lot of work. That being said, both Sonia and Dion both approached me and told me that they individually told me that they would like to consider leadership. And given their knowledge base and dedication, I thought it wise to nominate them both for these positions. I think they will add to the institutional knowledge of the board, and certainly it's in good hands with them as the officers for this next year. So thank you very much.
Any other comment from members? Can we take public comment, please?
Thank you so much. This is the moderator. If any member of the public would like to comment on this nomination, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. We'll give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no requests from WebEx attendees. Are there any requests in the room?
There are not,
All right, I'll close the question and answer panel.
and we can proceed with the roll call vote.
Charles Alexander,
Aye.
Juan Armenta,
Aye.
Jennifer Carlquist,
Aye.
Sonia Early,
Aye.
Judd Grant,
Aye.
Diego Nzunza,
Aye.
Vasco Dion Kid,
Aye.
and Deborah Snow.
Aye.
That concludes the vote.
Congratulations, Mr. Vice President. And that concludes our elections. I'll hand the matter back to our current president, Armenta.
Okay, thank you. All right, congratulations again to both of you. Okay, let us proceed to item number 11, which is the budget update from our budget analyst. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Armenta and the board for allowing me to present today. My name is Suzanne Balkis, and I'm the budget manager with DCA Budget Office. I'm here to present the board's 23-24 FM3 projections memo, expenditure and fund condition. We're going to start with the budget memo. This will give you a general overview of the board's budget, as well as the percentage of the budget used and counted toward expenditure. In 23-24, the board have a budget of $3,102,000. The board projects to use 38.59% of its expenditure on personnel services, which includes salaries and benefits, 24.53% on OE&E, which includes contract purchases and travel. Finally, 36.63% for enforcement, which is for Office of Administrative Hearing and Attorney General. The board is estimated to have 0.25% in reversion. On the second page, we have the fund condition, 22-23 actual beginning balance of about 4.5 million, with prior year adjustment of 51,000. That gives you an adjusted beginning balance of about 4.6 million. We have an overall revenue of 2.8 million and a total expenditure of about 3.1 million, which gives you a fund balance of 4.2 million, which is about 15.9 months in reserve. Next is the current year, 23-24, which have FM3 projections included into it. 23-24 beginning balance of 4.2 million, an estimated revenue of about 2.8 million, and an estimated total expenditure of about 3.2 million. That gives you a fund balance of 3.8 million, which is about 14 months in reserve. And budget year is based on Budget Act, and budget year +1 is based on the realized. We have no immediate concern for this fund. And the last document we have is the FM3 23-24 projections. We have $1.2 million in personal services, about 1.9 million in OE&E expenses, for a total of about 3.1 million, which create a saving of about 8,000 or about 0.25%. And we have no immediate concern for this fund. Please let me know if you have any questions.
What is the unconsidered?
We have, usually it's between 6 to 24 months, 6 months to 24 months. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments?
I just wanted you to clarify that the term personnel is correct instead of personnel. That was brought up in the last meeting.
So it should be personnel AL as opposed to NNEL.
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other comments? Very good. Can we check for public comment, please?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I am opening up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on the budget update, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. This is the moderator. I see no request for comment from WebEx attendees. Are there any requests for comment in the room?
We see none.
All right, I'll close the Q&A panel.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Very well. That brings up the report on the Medical Board of California activities. Dr. Randy Hawkins.
Thank you very much. Good morning again, and thanks for the opportunity to report on some of the important activities of the Medical Board of California. I'm extremely pleased and proud to announce I was elected as president of the Medical Board of California at its August board meeting.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The Medical Board will next meet Thursday, November 30th and Friday, December 1st, 2023. Physical location will be at this DCA headquarters. The agenda is not yet finalized, but will be viewable at the Medical Board's homepage at mbc.ca.gov. I have 3 additional updates: SB 815, SB 143, and updated pain guidelines. Senate Bill 815, which is a Medical Board Healing Arts bill, was signed by Governor Newsom last month. I must congratulate and thank Medical Board staff for all their hard work in this endeavor and the board members. Consumer advocates are also invaluable. I also want to thank the legislature for its approval, DCA, and the governor's office. Significant highlights of SB 815 include the following. It establishes an increased physician license fee, both initial and renewal, starting in January 2024, a much-needed infusion of cash for the board to do its work. There was approval of a number of processes that will improve the efficiency and timeline of investigation of complaints. There are a number of them. I'm not going to name all of them, but this will be very, very important in us reducing the time it takes to close a case. It extends the duration of postgraduate training licensing to 36 months from the date of issuance. This will improve licensing efficiency of trainees. It clarifies the creation of a complainant liaison unit and to interview complainants and/or patient representatives prior to closing their quality of care complaints. This will not take effect until new board staff positions are approved in the state's budget. This is something that we came up with a lot of support pushing by the consumer advocates. It removes language related to change the board's burden of proof, and therefore the current clear and convincing requirement will be unchanged. It recasts and clarifies the requirements to suspend and revoke a license following the licensee's conviction of certain felonies. It repeals AB 2098 and 202 related to COVID-19 misinformation and disinformation. Next, in a separate legislation, Senate Bill 143 was previously approved by the governor, included a board suggested delay to expiration date of certain postgraduate training licensees until March of 2024. Our board had substantial difficulty getting staff in many areas, and licensing was problematic. This really helps PTLs continue in their training programs and the time to complete their licensings. Finally, I want to remind that the Med Board has updated guidelines for prescribing controlled substances for pain. It's available at our website, mbc.ca.gov. I encourage all PAs to review these and, where appropriate, incorporate them in their prescribing practices. Thanks again for the opportunity to participate, and this ends my report.
Thank you, Dr. Hawkins, and congratulations again on your
Thank you.
capacity as president. Any comments from the board members? Any public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I'm opening up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on the report on the medical board, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is the moderator. I see no requests for comment from WebEx attendees. Are there any requests for comment in the room?
We see none.
All right, I'll close the Q&A panel.
Thank you. Very well. That brings us to 13, discussion and possible action on proposed 2024 meeting dates. So if you will all focus on that and perhaps your calendars. Ms. Khan, I'm going to rely on you to give us some recommendations of a framework, understanding that it is my view that with an eye towards budget savings and access, that we take advantage of remote platforms for the meetings which we are able to do by remote platform. The ones that are required to do in person, of course, we'll do in person. So Ms. Khan, can you give us your recommendations, please?
The proposed dates that I have for 2024, the first one is February 5th. It's a Monday. That will be 91 days from today's meeting. So we want to keep it within the 100 days due to any proposed decisions that may come about. And then the board president will set up the meeting location, be it WebEx or in person. But my suggestion was to have the November meeting in person because we have elections and, you know, we have a few board members that will be leaving the board as well, and also the EO eval in November. The next one is May 6th, which is a Monday. That is 91 days from February 5th meeting. After that is Monday, August 5th, 91 days from the May 6th meeting. And the last one would be a Friday, November 8th. If it is in person, we would recommend to have it in Southern California and allowing staff to travel.
And what was that date again?
November 8th, Friday.
If at all possible, I will be out of the country on May 6th. Could we move it up 1 week to April 29th?
I do know there's a, I think it's a APA conference, Jed? Yeah. That's something that we wanted to attend. We've never attended at a more national level. So that was one of the reasons we kind of proposed. And then we didn't want to have it, there's Mother's Day coming as well, so.
Right. I think Mother's Day is the following week on May, I think the second week in May, and then the APA conference is.
So 18th through the 22nd, we can look at.
So would there be a conflict for April 29th?
No.
That seems to work with these other dates, April 29th.
Yeah, we can do that. I just want to make sure like we have all the materials in-house. We'll make sure that everything's there so we get it posted.
Yeah, I think it's less than 100 days. I
Less
think
than
we're
100 days. So April 29th?
yes, if nobody has any conflict.
And that keeps us within 100 days.
Yes.
Okay. So the proposed dates are February 5th, April 29, August 5th, and November 8th.
Tentatively, what date you're saying is virtual?
All of them except for the November meeting.
All virtual?
Yeah.
Oh.
February 5th. The board president, right now we're setting the meeting dates, but the president will set the locations and we'll let you guys know
Yeah.
way in advance.
My intention is that these would all be, with the exception of November, virtual.
Mr. President, Michael Kenotes, legal counsel.
Yes.
There's a lot of changing authority right now in the Open Meetings Act for how we can conduct our meetings.
Okay.
Until the end of December, we can do them fully virtually the way we have been doing throughout the pandemic. After January 1st, we can have full teleconferences, but that would require individual members to all notice their locations and be at a public place like the traditional teleconferences that we've done in the past. We can have hybrid meetings, but the new option in the Open Meetings Act will allow a quorum of the board, will require a quorum to meet at a public location, a single public location, but then additional members in excess of quorum may attend remotely. So it becomes, in California, we love to enact very complicated statutes and procedures for public meetings and all sorts of activities.
Evidently.
There's also an exception that if someone has a disability or an illness and they can verify that in advance, and then they will count towards the quorum that is in the physical meeting space where the meeting's being held. So just to give you all, I don't think you need to decide how you're going to do the meetings going forward, but just to give you all a flavor that there's going to be more of an in-person requirement for our meetings than there has been through the pandemic.
So it sounds like through this legislative change, as a practical matter, it's technically going to be difficult to do
Right.
anything other than in person unless something changes between.
Well, but again, they can be hybrid meetings in the sense that we only need a quorum in the physical room.
Right.
And so there is some flexibility. One of the approaches I've seen have been 2 teleconference locations. For example, a meeting happening, say, here, and you might have another location that's publicly accessible in Los Angeles. And the members who are from Southern California can attend at that space. So there's a lot of flexibility, and I think probably going forward, as we're learning this new process, I think we'll be in discussions in terms of with myself and Rosanna and the board president on how to meet, when to meet, and what we need to do. But there's a little more to it now. But we can still do traditional teleconferences where the members, the remote members, are at a public location that's accessible to the public.
You don't drive around Southern California very much. do
No.
you? It's almost easier to get to Sacramento than it is
Right.
to meet at remote locations.
We've done that in the past and it's been very difficult.
Okay. Okay, so obviously the how the meeting will be conducted will be deferred to the board president at that time. All we're going to do is set dates for today. Is that correct? Okay. So do we need to vote on the public dates, or does the chair just set them?
The president, you have the authority to just set them, but you can vote, and a lot of times boards do adopt their meeting calendar at this stage. So that would certainly be appropriate.
Okay. So I'm going to make the motion to establish as the dates, understanding that the methodology will be deferred to the board president to an appropriate time of February 5th, 24, April 29th, 24, August 5th, 24, and November 8th, 24. So does anybody like to second that?
I'll second.
Very well. Can we call, we need public comment first. So any public comment on the motion for the dates?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I have opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or you may simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is the moderator. I see no requests for comment. Do you have any requests for comment from the room?
We do not.
All right, I'll close the Q&A.
Excellent. Thank you. Could we call the vote, please?
Charles Alexander,
Aye.
Juan Armenta,
Aye.
Jennifer Carlquist. Aye. Sonia Early.
Aye.
Jed Grant,
I'll abstain since I'm not going to be here.
Diego Nzunza,
Aye.
Vasco Dion Kid,
Aye.
Deborah Snow.
Aye.
And that concludes the vote.
Excellent. Thank you. Motion carries. So we now have a calendar. And Sonia, you'll get to figure out, obviously, how we do it. All right, very well. Let us move to item number 14A. I think Ms. Halbo is going to do this. Oh, are you? Okay, you're both doing it. Okay, great. So Ms. Halbo and Ms. Dillon, you have the floor on item A.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So item 14A is in regards to the license renewal and continuing medical education required regulatory package. There were some proposed changes that were made to the text. The last time that the proposed text was adopted was the May 28th, 2020 teleconference, is when the board discussed how the proposed amendments to California Code of Regulations, section 1399.514 could specify the 4 different ways the licensee can be CME compliant when renewing. And then the board thus voted to adopt the amended language. And since then, proposed changes to the language have been made to section 1399.514 as shown in the attached document. Those changes include adding language to include information asked for in the renewal application that was inadvertently left out. Clarify the meaning of Category 1 CME by referring to where it is defined in section 1399.616 of the California Code of Regulations, and clarify the one-time controlled substance education course that must be taken by PAs who dispense controlled substances by pointing to the board's pre-approval of such courses in section 1399.610. So staff is recommending that the board review and discuss the provided materials, highlighting shows where language has changed since the last board vote. The board may wish to determine whether or not to approve the revised regulatory language and initiate the rulemaking process using the revised regulatory language.
Okay, any comments on and Mr. Knotes, I guess it's appropriate for any motions. Should I do them piecemeal or probably piecemeal? Correct?
Yes, one item.
Okay. So any comments on the proposed changes to 514? That is 16 CCR 1399-514, which is the renewal of license section. Okay, having heard none, I will go ahead and make the motion to direct staff to submit the proposed language. I assume Mr. Knotes, that is a correct motion? Just a form?
Are you going to read the motion?
I've got it here
Okay,
if
so
you'd
we
like
what?
me to read it.
Read the motion.
Oh, okay, please.
Okay. It's moved to approve the proposed regulatory text for 16 CCR sections 1399.514 and 1399.615. Direct staff to submit the text to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review. Authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for a hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at 16 CCR sections 1399.514 and 1399.615 as noticed.
Great, so that'll be the motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. Dr. Grant? Any public comment on the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I am opening up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. This is the moderator. I see no request for public comment at this time. Do you have any requests in the room?
We do not.
Okay, I'm closing the Q&A panel.
Excellent. Can we call that motion for a vote, please?
Charles Alexander,
Aye.
Juan Armenta,
Aye.
Jennifer Carlquist,
Aye.
Sonia Early,
Aye.
Jed Grant,
Aye.
Diego Nzunza,
Aye.
Vasco Dion Kidd,
Aye.
Deborah Snow.
Aye.
And that concludes the vote.
Very good. That motion carries. Okay, item 14B.
I'll be discussing this with the board, and for item 14B, this was our SB 697 implementation. I trust you have gone through the extensive materials, and we got feedback from the California Society of Anesthesiologists, which I refer to as CSA, and the California Medical Association, CMA, and they provided additional information and materials to support their point. And in the memo to the board, we wanted to walk through those comments. There was also the comment from Greg Hadfield, but it didn't give specific feedback on the proposal. So we've simply addressed that it's not giving specific feedback that we could respond to. Essentially, the CSA and CMA comments break down to questions about the changes to 1399540D. And in that area, the proposed regulations talked about physician assistant feeling something is not really within the scope of what they're able to do and being able to make a referral. And the commenters were suggesting that under the scope of practice that the PA could only refer back to their supervising physician. And seemed to cite a PA referring to another PA or a nurse practitioner as being a particularly bad thing. I could not imagine that to be the opinion of the physician assistant board. Basically, the changes add back into the regulation the option to refer to a supervising, giving to their supervisor or to any physician and surgeon, but it does not restrict the ability of the PA to make referrals. The referrals and who they can refer to is a part of the practice agreement. And the point of these regulations is to really move forward with the broad scope of the practice agreement after SB 697. Then the other concerns that were raised related to the amendments to 1399.541 little I number 1, and that related to supervision during surgeries and what sort of surgeries were involved. And this language had been discussed in great detail trying to draft this and working with CAPA. And CSA and CMA pointed out difficulties in actually defining procedural sedation, which apparently is not a clear term at this point. And in working through the comments, it was agreed that moving procedural sedation to be simply under the sedation other than local anesthesia, including general anesthesia, would keep us out of having a term in regulation that we cannot define, and then the regulations cannot go through. There was also CSA and CMA have this is not unusual, having gone through the negotiations and the legislation for SB 697, they appear to have a slightly different recollection of what went on and why decisions were made. And that is why I peppered the board with 4 of the committee reports about SB 697, so you would understand why this is holding the line on, we are not going to dictate that a physician must be personally present, because it is over and over again in those reports that that is not what is going on. But again, their feedback makes these regulations better. And I want to try to encourage all boards to remember that the goal is the best regulations possible. So we have the proposed changes. They are yellow highlighted in your packets. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to help to try to answer. But the goal was to have all the answers in the memo, because there's a lot here to go through. And if there are any typos, or where I noticed in the previous memo I had the wrong verb tense or something, that is because both Jasmine and I went on vacations, and we were not actually able to do back and forth on these memos because we were gone at different times. So I want you to know, working together with her gives you the best result possible. And I see some of this is not perfect. So, but if there are any questions.
No, thank you for your diligence, though. It was nice working on that with you.
So I do have a comment. This has been, as this task commenced some years ago under the leadership of former President Grant, and is obviously continuing to this day. And it has taken a lot of hard work to get here. And I think it's important for everybody to know, board members and the public, that input from all sources has been deeply considered. And in fact, I think that's reflected on the amendments we have made. Our guiding principle, however, of course, is legislative intent. And Ms. Halbo, could you point out to us the specificities of the Business and Professions Code that states that
Okay.
PAs can carry out procedures in the absence of an MD?
It says the final statutory language is in Business and Professions Code, Section 3501F, which states under subsection 1, supervision as defined by this subdivision shall not be construed to require the physical presence of the physician and surgeon, but does require the following: A, adherence to adequate supervision as agreed to in the practice agreement; B, the physician and surgeon being available by telephone or other electronic communication method at the time the PA examines the patient. And then 2, nothing in this subdivision construed as prohibiting the board from requiring the physical presence of the physician and surgeon as a term or condition of a PA's reinstatement, probation, or imposing discipline. So in terms of someone who has been brought to the board's attention as a discipline problem, that's different. But everyone else, this is the language of the Business and Professions Code. Supervision can't require the physical presence.
Great. So when we are examining statutes and determining how to craft regulations and determining how to implement them, a key, in fact, the first hurdle that any analysis requires is effectuating legislative intent. And I don't think there can be any more clear legislative intent than 3501F, which specifically says, again, Ms. Halbo, says it shall not require.
Yes, supervision shall not be construed to require the physical presence.
Yes. Shall in statutory interpretation is mandatory. So the legislation, legislative analysis requires you to, what does each word mean? So if they said may, that's a different level than shall. Shall is mandatory. So it seems that the legislature directed us that we're not going to require the presence of an MD under surgical procedures. Now, that leaves us what to do with that. And I think the final language we came up with fits within that statutory interpretation, and also provides significant protection to the public, because we are requiring immediate availability of an MD should something go wrong in a procedure. So that was really the thrust of our discussions and trying to find a good balance between legislative intent and public protection. And my opinion is, I think we've come pretty close to hitting the middle of the board there. Please, Ms. Halbel, carry on if you have additional comment.
This is, I do better in writing. I gave you my best in writing.
Okay,
Could I make a comment?
please, absolutely.
Ms. Hallow, the summary of this and kind of how you came to these conclusions was excellent. So I really appreciate the background and information that you gave us in terms of how you came together with the language. We have been working on this a long time, and I agree with President Armenta's assessment that this is a really good balance of interests, specifically focused on protecting the public, but allowing a PA and physician team to decide what works best for them at the practice level, which was the base intent of the legislation from the beginning, which is that we should be making these decisions at a practice level, and the people making these decisions should be the ones with the most knowledge about capability. And I think the language that you crafted with the changes reflects that intent very eloquently. So that's just my thought. That's excellent.
Yeah,
And
and
I'd be happy to make a motion at the appropriate time.
Thank you. I know this has been a product of a lot of your labor, so thank you.
I'm so happy to see it here before I was gone. I was really,
I should also add that, when Jed spoke of the legislative intent, clearly the legislative intent of SB 697 was to expand accessibility to care. And that's what this does. And I think that's a clear legislative signal when they say MD doesn't have to be present for all physicians. It's a clear signal that that is the motivating intent behind SB 697, which we are required to honor. Okay. Is there a motion with regard to 14B?
Yeah, I think the appropriate motion is, which I will make, is to move to approve the proposed regulatory text for 16 CCR sections 1399, 506, 507, 511, and 546. Direct staff to submit the text to the Director of Department of Consumer.
Excuse me,
Is that the wrong one?
502B.
Did I say
you're
five-
on a different one.
I'm on a
Can
different
I
one?
read it and you decide if you
That
agree
would
with it?
be outstanding.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I scrolled too far. I'm sorry.
It's a motion to adopt the proposed responses to comments and the modified text and direct staff to send the modified text and an availability of documents adding to the rulemaking file notice out for a 15-day public comment period. If no public comments are received on the modified text, instruct the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking process. Authorize the executive officer to make any technical or non-substantive changes to the rulemaking package and adopt the amendments to 16 CCR sections 1399.502, 1399.540, 1399.541, and 1399.545 as noticed.
So moved. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Dion. I'll second that.
Thank you. Before we take the vote, any public comment, please? Madam Moderator, can we check with WebEx? We'll come to in the room after we're done with WebEx.
Do we need to move or
This is the moderator. My name is David. I've replaced Tricia for the time being. We are open for public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please tap that hand button at the bottom of your screen to raise a hand. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise a hand. You may also type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request on WebEx, do you wish to continue with the motion?
We have a public comment here in the room. So we'll go with that. Sir, if you turn on your microphone and announce yourself, we'll go ahead and accept your public comment.
President Armenta and PA Board, thank
I
you.
think your microphone's not on.
President Armenta.
Uh-oh.
Yes, and,
Maybe try the other one. Yeah.
That one's on.
President Armenta and board members, thank you for allowing me to testify today. I'm Todd Primack. I'm a anesthesiologist, board certified, and I serve as the chairman of the California Society of Anesthesiologists Legislative and Practice Affairs Division. I've been doing it for 1 year, so I missed all this the first time out. I'm here to speak about the changes to the CCR sections specifically pertaining to general anesthesia. And before I begin, I will say that I've worked with PAs in the past in the operating rooms, and I respect their skills and contributions to the care team. The California Society of Anesthesiologists is concerned about patient safety as a risk with some of the proposed changes. General anesthesia allows surgeons to do surgical procedures that could not be tolerated by conscious patients. It exposes patients to more serious harm as surgical procedures become more invasive. Deep sedation without an anesthesiologist or CRNA is far riskier than general anesthesia if there's no one properly dedicated to maintaining the airway and monitoring the patient. Proposed text does not address who would be doing the anesthetic administration. Will it be the PA? Because some procedural sedation type procedures or deep sedation, there's not an anesthesiologist or an anesthesia provider in attendance. Will anyone be required to focus on the patient during and after the anesthetic? Surgical procedures have moved from hospitals to outpatient surgery centers to physicians' offices. Hospital credentialing does an exhaustive evaluation of physicians' training and aptitude. Surgeons at ambulatory surgery centers are required to have hospital privileges in case the need for emergency admission. Will PAs have this requirement? A surgeon's training isn't just learning to do a procedure when things go right. It focuses on what to do when things go wrong. Among other things, atypical anatomy, unanticipated bleeding, and adhesions can disorient even experienced surgeons. Life-threatening complications may occur because there's no safety net for office-based procedures. There's no code team, no blood bank, no pharmacy, no other surgeons or other anesthesiologists to run and help when things go sour or bad quickly. PAs just don't have the same training as surgeons, and just as CRNAs don't have the same training as anesthesiologists. Previous regulations do more to protect the patients. Specifically, one of the things that we were talking about legislative intent, there was no specific authorization of an SB 697 to allow PAs to perform surgery under general anesthesia. So when we talk about limitations, that's something that has been added that's completely new. And I think the legislature needs to be addressing this, not just us deciding that we can just work within the rules. We appreciate the PA board tightening the requirements to make supervising surgeons immediately available during general anesthesia. We think that's a good step forward. We have last final question. Is there full disclosure to your patients that the operating surgeon is not a physician? Our focus is on patient safety. We appreciate that yours is as well. Thank you for the opportunity to address your board.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment? Here we go. Thank you, sir. If you'd please announce your name, and we'll be happy to accept your public comments.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Lucas Evanson, speaking on behalf of the California Medical Association. We submitted comments in response to the regulations to implement SB 697. I'd first like to thank board staff for their thorough analysis and the changes that they propose. CMA has one more recommendation we'd like to make before they continue through the regulatory process. CMA asks that in section 1399.541I1 relating to the performance of surgical procedures without the personal presence of a supervising physician, the phrase including general anesthesia be removed from the first and last sentence. CMA believes it is unnecessary and could inadvertently be interpreted as the physician assistant board encouraging or recommending physician assistants perform surgery without the personal presence of the supervising physician on patients under general anesthesia, rather than other forms of sedation. The change would not modify the physician assistants, or would not modify what physician assistants are allowed to do in the regulations. This would be left up to the practice agreement physician assistants sign with their supervising physician, but it would clarify that the subsection applies to other forms of sedation without calling out a specific type of sedation. Again, I'd just like to reiterate my appreciation for the board staff work and thank the board for providing several opportunities for public comment. Thank you.
Let me just ask you a quick question on your recommendation. You said, so striking the words including general anesthesia in sentence 2.
And the last sentence, so that it reads, surgical procedures requiring sedation or sedation other than local anesthesia may be performed by a physician and physician assistant only when a supervising physician is immediately available during the procedure.
Okay, so just your argument basically is that striking including general anesthesia, that phrase provides more clarity to the section.
Right, because then we have local anesthesia and other forms of sedation.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, board comment?
I appreciate the comments from CMA about that, but just having been in practice for many years as a PA and experienced the unfortunate events that happen when it doesn't specifically say what is allowed, the default is usually you can't do that because it doesn't specifically say that you can. I don't think, I think the specific language in here that says, you know, this sedation other than local includes general is important to be very clear to credentialing bodies in the hospital and privileging bodies that this is allowed. Because if you don't put general anesthesia in there, it will likely not be allowed because it doesn't specifically say that. I don't have data on that other than personal experience where I've had restrictions on my practice because of exactly this type of thing. So my comment would be that we leave that in there. I understand their concerns that they feel like it might be promoting this, but the whole idea is that this is decided at the practice level, right? So if you have a very experienced surgeon and a very experienced PA and they feel like, you know, the PA is qualified to do this as spelled out in the practice agreement, and there's somebody on a privileging committee at a hospital that disagrees with that, then you have someone else beyond the physician and PA making decisions about the practice agreement, which is what we're trying to avoid here. So I would just say that I appreciate their point, but I think it's important to spell it out in the law.
I also have a comment as well. I would underscore everything that Jed said. As a person who actually sits on a credentialing and privileging committee, words matter. And I think it's important to include general anesthesia because if it is not included, you would not be privileged to do it. So I think it's not general anesthesia, but performing, you know, procedures under general anesthesia. So I think it's really important for us to make sure that that is included in the text moving forward. And again, to Jed's point, this is determined at the practice level.
So both your points, I take it, is that inclusion of this phrase provides greater clarity of where the lines of demarcation are of allowable conduct.
Absolutely. If not, you leave it up to individual credentialing and privileging committees to try to figure that out. So I think it's really important to really codify it here in the text.
I take it you agree, Jed?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Jed, do you have a motion to make?
I think I made it already, but I'm happy to do it again.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
I think, well.
This was a public comment.
Yes, Ms. Halbo helped me because I was on the wrong page when I read, but I'm happy to reread it if that's required.
I don't think
It's
required.
not. It's not.
Okay.
I think we're ready to vote if there's
Still
no
out
other
there.
member
Very well.
comment.
Okay, so let's call the vote, please.
Charles Alexander,
Aye.
Juan Armenta,
Aye.
Jennifer Carlquist,
Aye.
Sonia Early,
Aye.
Jed Grant,
Aye.
Diego Inzunza,
Aye.
Pasco Dion Kidd,
Aye.
Deborah Snow.
Aye.
And that concludes the vote.
Okay. Jed, some finality before you left.
Yeah, I'm really, really pleased to see this language approved, and I just want to really extend my appreciation for the hard work for Ms. Halbo and the rest of the board staff in figuring this out. This has been a monumental task. And the board members who participated, as well as CAPA and CMA and other organizations that had input, I think, you know, finding something that works for everybody is always difficult, but you've found a good compromise here that I think protects the public and works well.
Thank you, Jed. Very well. Okay, let us move to item 14C.
Item 14C is in regards to the application, exam scores, addresses, and record-keeping regulatory package. At the November 8th, 2021 meeting, the board discussed and approved proposed amendments to the previously approved changes to sections 1399.506, 1399.507, 1399.511, and 1399.546 to better implement the needed changes to these regulation sections required by the passage of SB 697. Notice of the proposed regulatory language was published on September 9th, 2022, and the 45-day comment period closed on October 25th, 2022. The board voted at its November 7th, 2022 meeting to amend the text of section 1399.506 to include modified language incorporating the changes made to Business and Professions Code, section 115.5. Notice of the first modified text was published on November 9th, 2022, and the 15-day comment period closed on November 28th, 2022. Agency approved this package on December 12th of 2022, and it was filed with the Office of Administrative Law on December 20th, 2022. Regulations Council and staff worked with OAL to amend the text for consistency and to place the information asked for in the initial license application into regulation. At the August 4th, 2023 meeting, the board voted to adopt the proposed second modified text for sections 1399.506, 1399.507, and 1399.511. Notice of the second modified text was published on July 21st, 2023, and the 15-day comment period closed on August 7th, 2023. These proposed regulatory changes were initially noticed on September 9th, 2022, and the Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency had 1 year from that date to complete the rulemaking process and submit completed rulemaking file to OAL. A new rulemaking is required because the revisions the OAL attorney requested to the text rendered us unable to complete the rulemaking within the 1 year notice period. The changes were required to clarify the rulemaking and avoid disapproval of this rulemaking by the Office of Administrative Law. So attached are the proposed changes that were all previously approved by the board at the August 4th meeting. And staff is recommending that the board review and discuss the provided materials. The board may wish to determine whether or not to approve the proposed regulatory language and initiate the rulemaking process using the proposed regulatory language.
Very well. Any comments? And Ms. Dillon, do you have a proposed motion for me to make?
Yes. The motion is to approve the proposed regulatory text for California Code of Regulations sections 1399.506, 1399.507, 1399.511, and 1399.546. Direct staff to submit the text to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency for review. Authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for a hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at California Code of Regulations sections 1399.506, 1399.507, 1399.511, and 1399.546 as noticed.
Good, that will be my motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Very well. Any public comments on the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. If any member of the public has a comment, they can type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or they may simply raise their hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give them a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment. Do you have any comment in the room?
We see none.
All right, we'll close the Q&A.
And if we could call the vote, please.
Charles Alexander,
Aye.
Juan Armenta.
Aye.
Jennifer Carlquist. Aye. Sonia Early. Aye. Jed Grant,
Aye.
Diego Nzunza,
Aye.
Lasco Dion Kidd,
Aye.
and Deborah Snow. That concludes the vote.
All right, very well. Congratulations, people. We made it through the regulations part. Okay, number 15, update on pending regulatory packages. Ms. Dillon?
The first package, the license renewing and continuing medical education required, was discussed in agenda item 14A. And the board needed to adopt the revised proposed regulatory language so staff can submit this package for initial review. The next item was SB 697 implementation. Agency had approved this package on July 13, 2023, and the notice was filed with the Office of Administrative Law for publication in July 2023 to initiate the 45-day public comment period, which ended on September 12, 2023. 3 comments were received, and the board needed to adopt the revised regulatory language in response to the comments received, as discussed in agenda item 14B. And the next regulatory package was SB 697, application exam scores, addresses, and record keeping. As discussed in agenda item 14C, a new rulemaking must be initiated to restart the clock because revisions that the OAL attorney requested to the text rendered us unable to complete the rulemaking within the 1-year notice period. And the board needed to approve the proposed regulatory language to reinitiate the rulemaking process. The next package is the retired status to include fingerprint requirement. This package is on hold for 2023, and we will continue to work on this the next calendar year. And the final package is SB 1441, implement uniform standards related to substance abusing licensees and update of disciplinary guidelines. This package was also on hold for 2023, but we will continue to work on this package in the next calendar year.
Standing. Okay, thank you. Ms. Dillon, Ms. Halbo, a lot of work went into this. I know how many hours went into this. I know because a few of us members that met with CAPA and everybody else participated along your side there. It's a monumental achievement. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to second that. Thank you so much. It's really solid work.
Thank you.
Yes, outstanding work. I think you'd agree. Okay, great.
Excellent job, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Even though I threw Dr. Alexander off the off the board by accident, let's go to number 16. Doctors Grant and Alexander, if you would, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Zazan, yeah, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I want to thank Jed Grant again for his assistance, tutoring, support, and all the help he's provided, not only with this report, but previous reports that have been given by this board. And we'll miss you, Jed. Definitely enjoyed working with you and wish you the best going forward. I want to also present this report to you, this Educational Workforce Subcommittee report. You can see in front of you, just real briefly going through the total numbers of accredited programs, 303. But in our state, there's a total number of 20 accredited PA programs. There are a number of 4 programs on probation, 5 that are provisionally accredited, and there are 6 that are on the horizon that are developing right now. You can see the geographical distribution in terms of where they're located. In the LA, San Diego area, there's 16. The Bay Area, there's 4. Sacramento, Central Valley, there's 2. And then the Central Coast, there's 2. I want to just point out 4 programs on probation. I noticed in the report online from the accrediting agency, this probation F. And this probation F, if you scroll down, and you'll see probation, which is programs not meeting accredited standards. And this status may last for up to 2 years, but then probation F indicates that a program may have a focus visit prior to its next ARC PA review. I think that's important because this also impacts the capacity As you can see, the capacity for the 20 programs are 981 currently, with an average number of students per program at 49. If these programs who are probation F are not allowed to admit incoming classes, then you could see that those numbers, 33, 30, 30, and 50, are going to be impacting the capacity. And so to me, I think this raises us some concern in terms of the number of PAs that are being produced by the state. Hopefully, these programs will address those probation issues. And then I guess finally, you'll see that, you know, the estimated capacity, if we get all these programs online, 23 programs, it has the potential to produce over 1,000 PAs, namely 1,096 PAs. So that's about my report for this session. Jed, I don't know if you have any additions you want to make or any other comments.
Just that there's, yeah, thank you. Excellent report, Charles. Thank you. And it's been a pleasure working with you as well. Been great. Just that there's a lot of growth in PA programs, and the primary limiting factor for growth is clinical rotation sites. So PA education is set up on the medical model, which is there's a didactic component for 12 to 15 months, and then 12 to 15 months of clinical rotations, which would be equivalent to the, or similar to the clerkships that are done in medical school. These rotations are competitive in terms of schools, right? So some schools may have contracts or rotation sites that they've developed. When a new program opens, they have to have all of those rotations well in advance of seating any students. And so sometimes those things can change by the time the students matriculate or actually going on those rotations. It's up to 2 years after they've originally figured them out. So this is an area where the growth of programs might be limited in the state by obtaining those clinical rotations. And so just a thought for the reason that if you review the reasons for probation on many of these, it's not just about clinical rotations, but that frequently is a part of the problem in terms of program growth. And so just a thought process there that maybe somehow in the future, I know other states have looked at tax incentives and different things. Right now, what is happening is that programs are having to pay clinical sites to take students, and that cost is passed on directly to the student in most cases, which just drives up the cost of education for these folks, which is a personal debt that they have to take on, just like it is for our physician colleagues. So just a thought on that maybe moving forward some point in the future would be nice to figure out a remedy for that. So I'll leave that in your lap as I leave, sorry.
Thank you.
I bet you wish now I did throw you off.
Yeah. Again, I want to thank Mr. Grant, but also want to welcome Dr. Kidd as a colleague and partner in the committee that will move forward. So thank you, Dr. Kidd, for volunteering.
But thank you, Dr. Alexander, and I
should say.
look forward to partnering alongside you in this report. And just a quick comment, if I may. One of the concerns with some of these programs being on probation is that other existing programs would take their clinical sites, right? And that's a major challenge for some of these programs that are not able to matriculate students because they're now kind of in this phase. And so then what happens to those clinical sites that these programs have heavily relied on? So then the question will be then, would those other programs take some of those sites, and would that impact the program's ability, if they get off for probation, to have enough clinical sites to support their incoming class, as they haven't taken a class in a couple of years? So something for us to keep an eye on and check out, because, we refer to that in PA education as poaching in someone's backyard. So, which is not well received by PA programs.
I think that's an important point. I didn't even consider that. So thank you. Okay, any other comments on this report?
That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So are there any public comments on that report?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I'm opening up the Q&A. If any member of the public would like to comment on the report, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no request for comment from WebEx attendees. Do you have any requests for comment in the room?
I see none.
All right, I'll close the Q&A.
Excellent. That brings us to item number 17. So I think Ms. Dillon is approaching the desk.
I will be presenting the report by the Legislative Committee. The first bill, AB 883, this was in regards to the expedite of licensure for an applicant who is an active duty member and has completed the Skill Bridge program. This bill was signed by the governor, but as discussed in our previous meetings, the board does not anticipate any fiscal impact as this bill does not affect our board. Any questions on this bill? And if I may, I'll move on to the next bill. AB 996, the Continuing Education Conflict of Interest Policy. This bill is a 2-year bill and did not pass this year, but it may be acted upon in January of 2024. At its May 1st, 2023 meeting, the board took a watch position on this bill. The next bill is AB 1028, Reporting of Crimes Mandated Reporters. This is also a 2-year bill and may be acted upon in January of 2024. At its May 1st, 2023 meeting, the board took an opposed position on this bill. The next bill is AB 1070, Physician Assistance, Physician Supervision Exceptions. This bill was signed by the governor and chaptered. The next item is AB 1707, Health Professionals and Facilities, Adverse Actions Based on Another State's Law. This bill was also signed by the governor and chaptered. And at its May 1st, 2023 meeting, the board took a support position on this bill. Moving on to SB 345. This bill was also signed by the governor and chaptered. And the board at its May 1st, 2023 meeting took a support position. And the next bill, SB 372, was also signed by the governor and chaptered. And at its May 1st, 2023 meeting, the board took an opposed position on this bill. SB 385 was also signed by the governor and chaptered. At its August 4th, 2023 meeting, the board took a support if amended position on this bill, which is in attachment 6 on this item. And moving on to SB 544, the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. This bill was signed by the governor and chaptered as well. And SB 802, this is the next item, licensing boards, disqualifications from licensure. This is a 2-year bill and may be acted upon in January 2024. And that concludes the report.
Very well. Any comments or thoughts about changing any of our positions on these bills? Okay. Any public comment on the report?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I have opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. This is the moderator. I see no requests for comment from our WebEx attendees. Are there any requests for comment from the room?
I see none.
All right, I'll close the Q&A.
Thank you. That brings us to item 18, agenda items for next meeting. I have no recommendations on that front. Does anybody have any comments on the agenda items for the next meeting? Okay, any public comment on agenda items for next meeting, item number 18?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I've opened up the Q&A. If any member of the public would like to suggest items for the next meeting, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. This is the moderator. I see no requests for comment from the WebEx attendees. Any requests for comment from the room?
Negative.
All right, I'll close the Q&A.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Khan, if memory serves, we do not have any closed items on the agenda. do we?
That is correct.
Very well. So we can dispense with item 19, which brings me, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We do have one item, and that is the
Yeah, not
executive officer review.
exactly, just no cases for,
Okay, so I think Mr. Connotes adjourned the public session of the meeting and then moved into closed session, and from there, we will stand in full adjournment. Is that correct?
That's correct. And so for members of the public, this will conclude the public portion of the meeting, and the adjournment following closed session will not be webcast.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for attending, in particular, former President Bob Sachs. We really appreciate you being here to honor Jen Cropquist and Jed Grant. Congratulations to our new officers. And with that, we'll stand in adjournment. All right. Thank you, everybody.